Hi, my name is Evan, and I'm here to bring you a brief informational video on the subject of civil name changes in Kern County. So there are lots of information resources out there about civil name changes, but none that really go into some detail on information you'll need to know if you're petitioning for a civil name change in Kern County. So we wanted to make sure that you had updated information for 2022 and beyond when you're filling out your name change paperwork and show you where you can find it. So first things first, as with pretty much everything in the courts, if you want to get something done, you're going to need forms in order to do it. And we're going to show you a name change form builder program. But first, you'll need some information before you start building your forms. The first is going to be where you are going to file your case. So in Kern County, there are multiple court branches, and on the Kern County Superior Court site, the address of which is right here, there is a Find My Courthouse function, and we're going to go ahead and do a search based on me being in Bakersfield and the fact that this is a civil unlimited case. So we'll click that and it tells me my court is in Bakersfield. So this is some of the new information for 2022 that we want to make sure you're aware of. The civil department has a new address, and we'll go ahead and make sure to make note of that when we're putting together the forms in the form builder. Another piece of information specific to Kern County that you're going to need is the list of newspapers that you can select from. I'll cover that in a bit more detail once we get into the form builder program and see what our forms look like after we've put in our information. But bottom line, you're going to have to select a newspaper where you're going to publish one of the documents that are going to be prepared by this program. So the way that we can find that is it is displayed on the Kern County Law Library's website on our civil name change page. So here's the Kern County Law Library's webpage. Google Kern County Law Library to find us will be the top result. And under self-help, go down on this menu and you'll click on civil name change. And this is our very basic page on civil name changes. We make a note right here that if you want to change your legal name, a civil name change is one of several options. But in particular, if you had an open case in a family law matter that has a final judgment, or if it's a pending divorce, you might want to check the information on this page to see if maybe another option is right for you. Then we have a really quick breakdown of how this works, starting with completing and filing the appropriate forms. So that's what we're going to walk through today. But first, you have to select your newspaper when you're going to fill out your forms. So you can find the list of newspapers in Kern County by clicking right here. And when it downloads, it'll be titled Adjudicated Paper, and it will give you the series of options that you have in which to publish your order to show cause is the name of the document. So I just want to point out that you have a selection of newspapers. You don't have a correct choice here, but what you can do with this list is call these different newspapers and ask them what it costs to publish an order to show cause, and also if they will file your proof of publication. So the court only knows what you tell it, and if you don't have someone tell them that the order to show cause was published in one of these newspapers, they will not know. And then they may not hold your hearing for your name change. So when you talk to the newspapers on this list, be sure that you check with them to see if they will file your proof of publication for you. If they say that they will, that's great. If they say that they will not, that just means that you'll have to file it, which is not a big deal, but it is information you're going to want to have. So again, you'll need to select one of these newspapers. Again, you can shop around for price and to see if they will file your proof of publication for you. But we will go ahead and just say, picking one at random here, just for the sake of illustration, we're going to go with Daily Report. Again, not the correct answer, just an option here, okay? So we're gonna exit out of this, and on the Law Library's webpage, going down to completing name change forms, if you click here, it's going to take you to the judicial branch's webpage. And for the sake of illustration today, I'm going to make this as easy and straightforward a fact pattern as possible. we're going to be taking a guy who has gone by basically a nickname his whole life and wants to just change his legal name to that. So we're just going to say that this is an adult who is petitioning for his own name change. So we'll click on for an adult. Next, we will go to this arrow that says file a name change petition. Again, if you have other reasons that you want to change your name, check these different boxes. The information is there to be reviewed, but I'm going to say that I'm filing a name change petition for myself. And we're on step 1, which is fill out court forms. So you click the little plus sign here to expand the list, and then you can complete your forms online. So I want to point out that if you're so inclined, look right down below. You can click these links to download the forms that you're going to need. But to make things easy and to avoid missing some simple, avoidable mistakes, we're going to try this form builder. So I'm going to scroll down. Now I've read these instructions, so I'm just going to skip right past them. I encourage you to read them before you say get started. Now, next comes the page where you can decide whether you will create a free account and log in, or whether you're going to do this as a guest. So when you're doing a form builder program for a name change, this is a pretty simple and pretty quick process. So I would say, don't feel like you have to create the free account to save your progress, but it doesn't hurt to do so. If you're doing a longer one of the forms packets on here, something like a guardianship petition, I would say absolutely make an account, but name change, only a few forms. So I'm just going to do this as a guest. But again, it's your choice. It's free either way. But we're going to review the guest terms of use. And I have read these, so I will agree. I encourage you to read them before you agree. And now, before we start this program, I want to underscore here that this is being shown for information purposes only. This is not me recommending to you, the viewer, that you do a civil name change. This is just to show you how straightforward it can be if you decide that it's right for you and you want to use this software. So right here we have the Law Help Interactive Civil Name Change Petition questionnaire, and at the end of this, it'll take the answers that I give and it will apply them to some court forms. But first, there are a few questions to make sure we're in the right place. So remember our scenario, it's an adult male. He's looking to change his name basically to be in alignment with his nickname that he's had his whole life. So it says right here, are you getting divorced or were you divorced in California? We're just going to say no, because in this fact pattern, it's just a guy changing his name, and that was not applicable in his case. Next, he's not trying to add or remove the name of a parent on a child's birth certificate. He's just changing his name, so that's a no. And are you trying to change the gender of a minor or change the name of a minor to conform to their gender identity? That is, again, a no. This is just an adult petitioning on their own behalf to change their name, and that is it. So we will say next. And now really one of the only ways that this program can go wrong is if you are not careful and deliberate in the way that you go through it. Try not to skip around. Keep in mind that this is a legal process where you're asking the court to change your legal name. You've already decided to devote the energy to doing this, so devote a bit of time. It's going to take probably no more than 15 minutes start to finish to put together your forms. So just be sure to take it carefully and cautiously, because this is a civil name change. At the end of it, if you've given bad information, you could end up changing your name to something you did not want it to be. So be cautious and answer the questions as accurately as possible. And at the end, you should have a great starting point for your document. So I'm going to select from one of these. I am just changing my name. I am over 18 years old and I'm just changing my name. So I will be filing this in Kern County, as we learned from the Find My Court feature on the Superior Court site. And because I'm filing this in Bakersfield, the street address is going to be 1215 Truxton Avenue. And that's going to be Bakersfield, California 93301. Mailing address is the same. It's 1215 Truxton Avenue. And that is now the Metro Justice Division of the Kern County Superior Court. So Metro Justice Division at the Kern County Superior Court, and it's at 1215 Truxton Avenue. So is the purpose of this request to make your name match your gender identity? No, I'm just changing my name because My legal name is not what everyone calls me, so that's what I'm doing here. Right here, it says the court's filing fees for a petition for name change are $435. If you are going to request a fee waiver, there is going to be a next set of questions that have to be answered. So if you believe that you are eligible for a fee waiver, you check yes right here, and they'll ask you additional questions to generate your request to waive the court fees. If you can comfortably pay the $435 filing fee, we're just going to say, no, you're not going to ask the court to waive your filing fees. So we'll say no, just for the sake of ease here. And we will go ahead and click the next arrow. So next, we've got the full name. This is the name that you're coming to court with. This is the one that you want to change, okay? So this is your current name, and it says right here your first, middle, and last names exactly as they appear on your current legal documents. So if you go by first name and a middle initial, if that's not what appears on your legal documents, don't put the initial, go ahead and put the full name. So like in this case, we're going to say that the guy who wants to change his name in our scenario is Albert J. Lewis. So if he introduces himself as Albert J. Lewis, this is incorrect if that's not what is appearing on his legal documents at the time that he's coming to court. So if his legal documents list Albert J. Lewis, just like this, then that's how he's going to write it on his present information for the petitioner. So this is Albert J. Lewis, his street address. And I'm doing this to illustrate that this is just for demonstration. It's 123 Fake Street. So keep in mind that this is just being done for the sake of illustration, and that you should put in true and accurate information in your case. I'm just putting in fictitious information so that no one can possibly interpret what I'm doing here as something that you should mimic or take down as a example to copy word for word. This is just a fake scenario to show how the paperwork generator works. So we're just going to say ajlewis@fakemail.com. So next, once you've filled in the information here, it'll take some of that and apply it on the next screen. This is where he's going to put down what he wants his name to be. Proposed name is the name that he wants the court to change his name to. So he's coming to court as Albert J. Lewis, and he wants to leave Al J. Lewis. So remember that the proposed name, be careful to write down exactly how you want it to look on your new, on your order for the change of name, because again, remember, the court doesn't know what you don't tell it. You have to tell the court exactly what you want. They don't know what's going on inside your head. So just be sure that when you're writing down the proposed name, you do it very carefully. You double and triple check to make sure that you have put down exactly what you want your new name to be. So we're going to say that Albert J. Lewis was born in Bakersfield, California. Since he is the petitioner, yes, it's the same address as the petitioner. 123 Fake Street, gender male, date of birth 1/1/1950, and the petitioner wants to change his name for some reason that he has to specify. So right here, they're not asking for you to sound like a law professor. They're not asking you for an essay to explain why you want to change the name. They ask in 50 words or less to please describe why you want to change the name. So I will say, I have gone by Al my whole life, and I want my legal name to reflect that. So again, keep in mind, this is me giving you an example. Please do not take this as a template to copy word for word. It's just to show you that you're going to give your own unique explanation for why you want to change your name. Next, there are a couple of questions to answer. The first is, are you under the jurisdiction of the Department of Corrections? That is to say, in prison or currently on parole? No, I am not. Also, I am not required to register as a sex offender under Penal Code Section 290. So that's a no on that one as well. So right here, it tells you don't forget to sign the petition. So it seems like you're done, but not quite, because remember, we need to name a newspaper. So right here, it says you'll be required to publish a copy of the order to show cause at least once for each week for 4 successive weeks prior to the date of the hearing on the petition. So remember our example here, totally hypothetical. We're going with the daily report. So this program, as it notes here, is not going to file your forms for you. You're going to have to actually print these once they've been generated, and you're going to have to make sure that you go and file them with the Superior Court at the address that you listed on your paperwork. So these icons right here, you can skip. If you really need to go back to the information on the adult name change, that was on the Superior or the Judicial Branch webpage where we got here in the first place. So just know that you can skip these for now. Right now, we're just concerned about getting the paperwork generated. So we click next, say okay. It'll take a few moments for the paperwork to be generated, but there's not a ton of documents here, so this should be relatively quick. And right here, if you've created an account, you have the option to save your answers. Right now, we're just going to go ahead and download the forms. So again, remember, if you made the free account, you can feel free to save your responses so you can revisit them later if you need. But if you put in your information carefully and accurately, then hopefully you will just be able to retrieve your answers straight away like this. So the forms that were listed on the Judicial Branch's webpage, where it says you have to do all of these, the Law Help Interactive program has given us those forms, and they fill in all the check boxes that are required. They fill in the petitioner information where required. They put in the court's information, and all that is left to do once you have reviewed these for accuracy is to make sure that you date and sign everything in order to complete the forms. So the civil case cover sheet requires a date and a signature. The petition for name change is going to have that present name that we talked about, the proposed name that we talked about, tells us that there's an attachment, which is this form right here. And on the attachment, you're going to have 2 places that you have to give your signature. One is in that declaration that says that you're not under the jurisdiction of the Department of Corrections, and that you are in that you are declaring under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California, the information in this petition is true and correct. So those are the 2 signatures on the petition and attachment. Then this is the document that I was referring to earlier. This is the order to show cause for a change of name. This is the one that you're taking to the newspaper that you selected. And because we wrote it out in the form builder program, it says right here that a copy of this is going to be published in that time frame that they talked about at the daily report. So it's going to say that my present name is Albert J. Lewis and my proposed name is Al J. Lewis. And this is the decree changing name. So if you've been told that you need an order showing that your name has been changed, this is what they're talking about. The decree changing name is something that the judge will sign if they consider your petition, there are no written objections filed, and they agree to sign the order. This is the form that is the order for a name change. They call it a decree changing name. You could just as easily call it a court order for a name change. It says right here, the court orders the name of Albert J. Lewis to be changed to Al J. Lewis. So everything that I went over right now, it'd be silly to expect you to just recall everything that I've said. You can always refer to the instructions for filing right here. So I would say that there are just a few things to go over before we wrap up the proceedings here. Keep in mind again that this was for information purposes only and not to advise you to undertake a civil name change. This is just to show you a tool that you can use in order to prepare those forms. I want to point out as well that in the Kern County Superior Court at the Civil Department in downtown Bakersfield, commonly accepted practice is that if you are going to want your documents mailed back to you, you can go ahead and submit along with your paperwork to the court a self-addressed stamped stamped envelope, and that can be what they use in the civil department to just send your documents directly back to you without you having to come and pick them up. So when it's time to file your paperwork, the easiest thing that you can do to make things as straightforward as possible is when you are ready to file, make sure that along with your original documents plus 2 sets of photocopies, that you deposit an envelope that is addressed to yourself, that has stamps on it, so that once the clerk of the court has processed the paperwork and they keep the originals, the photocopies can be sent back to you. So bear in mind that right here, this is an important last thing to note. If no written objection is filed at least 2 court days before the scheduled hearing, the court may grant the petition and sign the decree without compelling you to attend a hearing. But right here it says check with the court to find out if a hearing is going to be held. So going back to that order to show cause, when you file it with the court, remember, we just had this program fill out our forms for us, and notice here that there is no date, time, and department for your hearing. That's going to be filled in by the clerk when you file your paperwork. So when you get your paperwork back, you're going to see the date, time, and department for the hearing. If the judge rules that your name change can be granted without a hearing, you won't have to attend. But until you hear a clerk of the civil department say that the hearing has been canceled, or until you confirm it by looking up your case information on the Superior Court yourself, go to your hearing. Attend as scheduled until you hear otherwise. So with that, I would say that you've seen everything that you'd need to know about how to prepare your paperwork for a civil name change. You can either use the form building program I've demonstrated, or you can always contact the Kern County Law Library to obtain copies of the forms and fill them in by hand yourself.